This is episode 4 of the Riff Tacos podcast. My name is Paul Misko, and as you can probably tell, I am under the weather. I have a stuffy nose and some kind of a cold, so I apologize if I sound like this today. If you are enjoying the podcast so far, I'd like to remind you to please support me, and the best way to do that is to hit the follow on Spotify or Apple, and please leave a rating. And if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe, likes, comments are all greatly appreciated. My guest tonight is one of my favorite people I've met on the road back in the day. He's a genuine dude, one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and I'm glad we've gotten to keep in contact since our reunion show. He is the vocalist of the band Nights Like These, Mr. Billy Bottom. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on. This is incredible, and very excited to talk with you and kind of pick up where we've left off, since we have all picked up since the reunion. So it's awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for doing it. And Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year. Yes, sir. Yes. Happy New Year indeed. Yes. 2025. Can't believe it.
Yeah. So before the reunion, do you remember the last time we talked?
No, actually, I was thinking back on that. I've tried to kind of piece some of this stuff together, and I told you kind of off the air that Patrick, our drummer, in Nights Like These, and my longtime best friend and brother, essentially, is my memory bank. So I rely on him to kind of give me tidbits on what's happened when I kind of stopped communicating with a lot of my music industry band people.
Right.
But I was thinking back for you specifically. I have a memory. Let me find I went through some of my stuff, and I remember we played a show. Sorry, I'm kind of fumbling, but we played a show with The Devil Wears Prada.
Okay.
Were you on? Did you do those dates?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Unless they did some with them before that, but I'm pretty sure we were on that. Yeah.
I think it was you. It was the Dudes in Paradise stuff, and we had like a bunch of random like bands would jump on. I think we did the whole thing, and then Heavy Heavy Low Low did some stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I had that tour pass somewhere.
I have it right here.
Yes, I designed that thing.
Did you?
Yeah, that's why it sucks.
And so that's my memory of you, is us talking, because you were fairly new on into the to FASSW, I think.
Yeah, it was probably my second tour.
I think so.
I think our first one was with Through the Eyes of the Dead and Acacia Strain, and then that one was like soon after.
I believe you were correct.
I remember like when we started chatting before the reunion show, and we were all getting hyped for that, and you were like, you didn't talk much back in the day. Like, you were pretty quiet. And I was like, yeah, I was new. I was just thrown in the mix. And I was coming from Robinson with like smaller shows. And so this was like kind of a new world to me. But I was always kind of just quiet in general back then if I didn't know you.
Sure.
Like, I didn't go out of my way.
Yeah, no, it's funny to think about that, because I didn't even, and maybe I did at the time, but I didn't even realize the Robinson connection to you. And I knew of Robinson prior to knowing you. And there's so many things that, like, the way the internet was back then, you couldn't connect the dots as easy, maybe. And you were a little bit more quiet and you were newer to it. But I kind of lump memories together, as you do, from things being so long ago.
Yeah. Things get crossed easily.
They do. But I think that was also, we played this spot, and it was this incredible moment with Nick. We're playing this last song off of The Faithless that's kind of has this epic build-up ending that was during our very metalcore days, and Nick brings his snare and kick drum out, puts it across from Patrick so they're facing each other.
Oh, I remember that.
And they're playing in tandem the end of this song, and it was the coolest moment for us. And I have to say this as an aside for like anybody who's listening, and maybe even for you, like, we were very young. I'm still considerably younger than, I'm in my late 30s, but at the time when you're in your late teens and hanging out with mid 20-year-olds, that's a big gap. So we looked up to you guys a ton, and for Nick to do that with Patrick was such a like cool thing, and it was ingrained in our brains. And I think when we did this vinyl release, we had some, commercial promo stuff that we put out, and I think there is a clip that we found of Nick and Patrick from that show. So pretty cool.
Oh, no shit. You'll have to
Yeah.
send me that. I
Yeah.
would love to
Yeah.
post that. That is such a great story.
We have so many videos from that, but yeah, that like mini disc stuff that we had to rip off of. It was a nightmare. Patrick did it, but it was fun.
Yeah. Dude, that's great. That tour was fun. The dudes in Heavy Heavy Low Low are so cool.
Oh my gosh.
Were you guys there when Joe got the tattoo from, what's his name, Danny, in the parking lot?
I think we were, because I also went under the gun with Danny.
Did you?
Dude, I got to. There's so many funny stories about those dudes, and I love them. Robbie's killing it as a director right now.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's awesome.
He's about to put out his second film. I think it's called I Don't Like It Here. He put out like this really cool horror flick called Grieve. He's doing amazing. All those guys are doing awesome stuff. But anyways, yeah, we're in a hotel room, and I didn't, at the time, I guess you could say I was super edge. I was the only one in the band that didn't drink. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do any drugs. Nothing.
I don't remember that. That's probably because I did. But
that's part of, I'll get into that kind of transition of our band and how, like the Beatles, as Patrick said, they started dabbling and it changed a lot of what we did musically. But no, we were in a hotel and they were all having a good time, and Danny is wanting to ink people up with his little prison gun,
Yeah.
and he did the inner parts of my fingers. And like an idiot, and I've since had them, no offense, Danny, I had them lasered off. I had to get rid of some of my hand stuff. But inner parts of my fingers, it said NLT, and on the other hand, it said M10 for Memphis 10. And I thought it was so tough. What am I doing?
What is Memphis 10 in reference to?
So Memphis, Tennessee, just like the
10.
quick little abbreviation. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking the number 10. That's cool. I got the inside of my fingers done, and they surprisingly stayed. I got Mama Tried when my mom passed away. And what else? Oh, I have a Stone Cold Mama Tried, and then I have a Stone Cold Steve Austin one. It's a little skull with 316.
That is hilarious.
The smoking eyes. That one's starting to go, but I had to get one because he's the GOAT.
That's amazing. Yeah, you had to get your Steve Weisers ready, right? I mean,
yeah, Steve Weiser. I got a Stone Cold poster up here.
I love it. No, yeah, I've been touched by Danny on that stuff's painful, and
it is. The fingers hurt a lot more than you think.
Yeah, and I mean, like kind of like you, I'm pretty covered, and that I remember back to that moment. I'm like, Danny, this is not fun, and I regret this decision.
Yeah. Especially on tour, and you got to go and perform while they're trying to heal, and they're getting all sweaty and dirty.
Oh yeah,
depending on where it is, but
so disgusting back then. But those guys, we connected. Actually, the story about Heavy Heavy Low Low, we connected with them. I did early in the early years of NLT, when we were really chaotic, spastic. This was probably, I was in high school, and we connected with them kind of through MySpace. We weren't really a MySpace band. We were kind of before MySpace, the advent of that kind of world, and we had already kind of changed sounds a little bit, but that's how Robbie and I connected. And then, they get signed, we get on a label that was not really, we shouldn't, I'll get into that. But yeah, that's kind of our history with those dudes, and they've been awesome. So
were you guys always called Nights Like These? Did you ever have a name change? Or
so man, we were terrible with names, and it's just like Nights Like These. It doesn't even make sense. You're like, dude, like this.
I was gonna ask because honestly, that's one of my favorite band names. I love it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Man, because you also kind of, the same thing with Robinson. I always liked is like you
Mhm.
can't tell what kind of music it is just by hearing it. So the
That's why we
contrast
did
of
that.
it, yeah.
That's why we did it. And
Where did it
so,
come from?
man, we started. So a little bit of history on. I'll kind of give you the backstory of the band and the formation of it, and it's kind of some of the paths because it was a little bit different. Um, but we, in when I was in high school, I really wanted to get into that, and like, I was kind of listening to your backstory and kind of the new metal days. I mean, uh, I I think we all had kind of very similar, connect. It was a very easy, segue, right? Um, but I actually started as a guitar player when I was 13 years old.
Did you?
Yeah. And I went to go to guitars, like the Guitar Academy. I can't remember what it's called, Howard Vance. It was like these old metal dudes, uh, learning Jimi Hendrix songs and stuff. And then he'd be
Fuck yeah.
like, who was telling the story about that you'd bring in a song to learn? Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. I took like
So
7 lessons with the guy. That was the only part I liked.
yeah, that was mine. And so I'm learning everything from like Incubus to Slipknot to the Deftones to, Limp Bizkit and Korn and all this stuff.
That's what's up.
Um, early on. And then my first kind of memory of kind of like hardcore all kind of happened at the same time. And as hilarious as it sounds, and this as my oldest might say it's cringe, but back in the day, Hot Topic, you could go listen to music.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where I heard Poison the Well. We were like mall rats, and
Dude, we
we'd
have the
walk
exact
around.
same backstory.
We would go in, listen to this stuff, and I'm in seventh grade, eighth grade, listening to Poison the Well. And so I'm into that. I had a neighbor who was a big skateboarder, and we were all kind of like getting into that world. His cousin, she had a record player and puts on His Hero Is Gone, which is a Memphis based band before they were Tragedy and moved to Oregon.
Okay.
So that's how I was exposed to His Hero Is Gone and kind of that D beat crust punt type of stuff. And like, what is all of this? These noises? Like, what is this? Get exposed to Converge, and these are all gateway bands. And then we start going to shows. Before you know it, like we had a buddy that was making me, mixtapes of like with Snapcase on it. I'm hearing like these are like the older Victory bands. Um, we were around a lot of older guys in the hardcore quote unquote scene back then that was very strong. And got shown everything. So like we had a buddy, John Lee, shout out John, who played in a band called Dead City, and he was showing us stuff like Yaphet Kotto or Kodo or however you pronounce that band's name, but like early stuff like that, to local bands that had a very strong presence, like Clenched Fist was a big hardcore band. To some other locals out there, and you're going to shows constantly. And I was pulling old flyers and just things that we saw from like, Remembering Never, and Pete was always a big advocate of us when we were a local band, um, and wanting to play with us when Remembering Never came through. So rest in peace to a great man, and
For sure.
coincidentally, he did vocals on one of our songs off Old Youth Culture.
Nice.
Um, and to Evergreen Terrace, Under Oath, to Found Dead Hanging, FASSW, all this stuff, and you're just experimenting in all this whole world. So I'm kind of got off track, but Patrick and I met freshman year, 2001, in algebra class in high school. I'm sitting next to him. I look over, and he's got Poison the Well stuff on his binder and Deftones. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and we're at an all boys private, like, Christian high school, and like, we hated it. And I look
Yeah.
at him, I'm like, dude, do you like Poison the Well and Deftones? He's like, yeah, man. I was like, we should be friends.
For sure.
And so we just hung out, wanted to start a band. I got played in like just random stuff, guitar, embarrassing cover bands, you know, when you're like 12 years old, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and joined a group of dudes. And that was kind of the beginning of Nights Like These. And we wound up calling it In Case of Fire.
Oh wow.
Great. Yeah, great. It was very, the most generic metalcore breakdown, you know, stuff that you could think of. Um, it was, you know, it took nothing, but it was just funny, and we wanted to do it. We wanted to be like every band that we heard,
Yeah.
copy them, mimic them, uh, be
That was like
be
kind of the
whatever they
entry for
were.
everyone at the time, is to sound like that.
I
And then you
think
kind of go,
everybody's,
okay, if
yeah,
everyone sounds like this now, what do we actually want to do? You kind of build off that.
I think that's what happened. So to answer your question in the full big circle way, it was called In Case of Fire. We had a different guitar player. Uh, Patrick is learning to play drums on the fly. I'm learning to yell in this microphone. We're jumping on random shows, and just trying to connect and grow. And I was always very ambitious and extroverted in a way where I was like, I'm going to figure out a way for us to do this, even if I'm a kid. I don't care.
Yeah.
And it worked out, man.
How did
And
you go from guitar to vocals? What triggered you to try that?
I wasn't very good at guitar, and I got very impatient, and that was very early on. Even in the early In Case of Fire stuff that was pre Nights Like These, I didn't play guitar in the band. This was, I kind of would tinker, put it on the side, and I remember just seeing Jacob Bannon, you know, Pete. I mean, even watching, you know, shoot, I mean, Phil from Pantera, all these guys just be on stage, this brooding presence. And I'll be honest with you, like the early, after we went through some guitar changes, I mean, the early Nights Like These demos, um, that we toured on when I was in high school regionally, it was, I mean, Sean. I mean, I remember seeing him at the Caravan. You know, Derek's going insane. That's how I met Joe. I mean, Sean didn't know me from anybody, but I'm seeing these guys go insane. Uh, and all these bands that were kind of in that kind of crazy, chaotic, um, world of music, there was this kind of like, let's go berserk on stage. And I was like, man, I want to do that. I want to rock out really hard, play heavy, loud shit, and do that
Before
because no
everyone
one.
got choreographed and did
Yeah.
jumps and time
Yes.
jumps and shit.
Yeah. And so we were like, As the Sun Sets, Early Daughters, The Great Redneck Hope, Ed Gein, stuff like that was like big. And we were like, well, I want to do that. And that's how the early stuff started. Um, but I mean, it was just a weird world, and I just wanted to be the front guy. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to do it
When you
and
know,
be
you
up
know.
there. Yeah. And it was exciting at the time, and you go through all these kind of, like you mentioned, musical taste changes. And I think if I can break it down to kind of early, immature, spastic Nights Like These, when we made that change to our first record, we were just very into early Death Wish bands and early Trustkill bands, and that's
Mm,
kind of how I could sum up the influences. Um, like to your point, you know, you said Robinson. We wanted to like not connect to something heavy. That's how Nights Like These was, and we were so obsessed with this like brotherhood of playing music, going to shows, hanging out with your bros, and it was this very like silly thing. I think Patrick came up with it. He's like, "Man, let's just call it something easy. Nights Like These. It doesn't sound metal." And you know, we were very attached to each other, and we still are, which is after all that time. And it can sound a little silly, but man, like that's what we did every night. And it was a very easy moniker to, you know, throw on the band, and
yeah.
I
I think
it
it's
was
perfect, dude.
well, thank you. That's awesome. I've always been kind of like I don't want to say not proud of it, but I always like you always hear like other people's band names, and you're like, man, that's sick.
Yeah. I think ours is way too long. Now I'm trying to design logos and like T-shirts and shit. I'm like, man, I wish we had something shorter. But
Well, your name is
obviously way before I joined. But
I still like it, man. And you guys, I think you were the one saying is like you were talking about how Robinson, you didn't want anybody but like to see the name or hear the name and then be able to attach it to music.
yeah, like that's a
And
metal band.
yeah, that's this. I mean, that's perfect, and I love that. And it's the same thing with like logos and art and all this stuff. It's just we always wanted to be different, and I think
It's
that
too on the nose if everything is like, if you're a metal band, then it's like everything is skulls and death and like, and that contrast of like a cool image that's kind of vague. It's like, ooh, what's that? And then the music makes it heavy and cool. Like
that's, I mean, literally was us from our, merch designs to like artwork to, I don't know, anything. Like, it was just like, do it different and just, and it also, that's how our records kind of were as well, because I think we just were always changing and evolving. And I think the one thing that I can speak very truthfully about is that we always wrote what we wanted to write, what we wanted to hear. And we have fans, I guess, fans. It's so weird for me to talk about that. But
you do though.
yeah. And which I appreciate everybody. I got a message today after I reposted your Instagram thing about me coming on, about a guy telling me, thank you for, these lyrics and stuff. And I'm like, man, that's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
It never gets old to like hear people were touched by something you did, because you're like, to you, it's like, it's really cool, but you don't think anyone else is going to have the same feeling about it.
I didn't think anybody really cared. And every record, I think we pissed people off. I can definitely go down memory lane with you on that, because our records all sound a little bit different, but we did not write music for the people that listen to our band, unfortunately. And we wrote it for ourselves and what we liked. And if you didn't like it, well, fuck you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dude, that's the only way to do it. That's what makes the most genuine art, is doing it for you. I think Rick Rubin said that in a podcast like I saw lately, or a clip of something, but it was like, if you're not doing it for you, you're doing it wrong.
Well, that's literally what it was for us. And we wrote everything from where we recorded to how we did it. And we messed up along the way and made some stupid choices. But we did it for ourselves. And if people didn't like it, or that the old group didn't like it, but we got new fans, I'm, sorry, not sorry, get the fuck out of here then.
Yeah.
And that's what I said to, Ash Avildsen and, Sean Keith, who I guess does Sharp Tone Records. But you want to talk shit, I need to let go of some stuff, but I don't give a shit. And when you're 18 years old and you're writing music for yourself and trying to do your thing, and you got your own booking agent talking shit about you, but it's all good, that's a long time ago, and it's fine.
Shit happens. Like you said,
Shit
if
happens.
you're doing it for you, who cares? And if people can't understand that, then, whatever, move the fuck on.
Exactly. And that's what I love about the FASSW stuff, man. And like, seeing the transitions from early on, and to Derek leaving, to you joining, to you guys saying, screw this, we're done. I don't blame you. And dude, and y'all were far more successful than us. And we were like, God, I'm so beyond ready to be done with some of this stuff.
Yeah. We were ready, dude. It was time.
And then the Will stuff, and I love Will, and he is such a great man, and his send off was perfect. Sean back in, and you guys are just rewriting what you want to do, which is exactly what we've always done, just on a smaller scale compared to you guys. And But that's how it should be.
Yeah,
I
we pissed
think
off a lot of people with conversations too, and it was like, well, that's how we
mm,
felt. That's the mood we're in right now. So, and
yeah,
it was also my
and
first time writing with the band. That
mm,
different dynamics. Or like, we're gonna try some shit. We've always loved singing. Will has an amazing voice. Like, we're tired
he
of the heavy
does.
shit for the moment,
Hmm.
so let's go for it and see what happens. And I've
It's
said before, like I like a lot of things about it. I would change a lot of things about it, but
mhm.
it's what happened, and now we're doing it our own way again. If if people can't tell us,
No,
different
that's
direction.
what, and that's what you should do. And you don't need me saying that to like validate you, but I'm happy for you guys. And I would think in the band, at the time, just because of he was so active, Derek and I kind of got along early on when I was really young. Um, but then Joe and the rest of the crew, like when I went out to do vocal, dude, I was 18 and did vocals on Delinda.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy. Which song
and
were you on again? Was it The Crusher?
the Crusher, yeah.
Okay.
And I was so scared. And what a hilarious time for I'm like a little kid, man, and that's what I always try to remind the guys and like even my family, like the boys, like I was a child. We were
Mhm.
kids, forced into very adult situations, handling adult things, and we did not really know, nor were we prepared to handle the majority of it.
Yeah.
But
That's how
we
you
grew up
learn,
very
though.
fast. Yeah, we grew
I
up
was
very
going to say that
fast.
you grew up fast on the road because
We
you
did.
pack a bunch of 18-year-olds in a van and send them across the
Phew.
country. They're going to have to figure shit out.
You already know, and but that's why I'm glad I was, band dad. And I mean, even now they call me Boomer Bill trying to run apps and stuff because I don't know how to do anything. But back then, me not drinking and partying and stuff, I think helped a lot, and we were able to run it like a business, and
Mhm.
I we achieved what we wanted to, and it was fine. But no, like I am glad you guys are doing what you're doing, and it's this kind of uh, what we've always wanted to do in a way as well. Um, I thought of a story when I was talking to Patrick, kind of thinking about our conversation, and I think one of the things, even though we weren't big by any means. We always had like a smaller group of people that really enjoyed our music, which was all we wanted to do. And I think one of the best compliments that we got way after the fact and after our, touring was done, um, we did a tour. We did the first U.S. Tour with Bring Me the Horizon.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I was trying to find that tour pass and I found it, and it was the Yankees and Brits, Frenchies and Grits tour.
The names
It
of the
was,
tours back then were
dude,
hilarious.
2007. Bury Your Dead was headlining, um, with support from Bring Me the Horizon, Ion Dissonance, and
Wow.
us. And oh man, such a great tour. It was Mike Terry's. Is when he joined Bury Your Dead, and shout out Mike, good dude. Bring Me the Horizon were like little kids like us, so we hung out and had some hilarious. I have some funny stories about them that I'm going to reveal. Um,
I'm sure they
and
were wild back then.
oh God, but then Ion Distance, of course, like those guys were amazing, and we got to go to Canada and hear them speak French and be
Yeah.
confused as shit. And
I can't
it was
imagine the
awesome.
three of you bands partying together.
It was very funny, and eating poutine and all that stuff. But no, Bring Me the Horizon was hilarious, and they would. This is when we got a huge RV bus thing. We gutted it and we would like just sprawl out, and it was awesome. We made Darren drive all the time, and um, and Ollie and I think the drummer's name is Matt. Anyways, they would come on. I think um, they were on some psychedelics in the back of our bus RV thing, and we made them watch Pink Floyd The Wall, and they were like had never seen it and were like losing their
How?
minds. I don't know, and I vividly remember like looking at them laying down. And sorry if they ever, you guys, if they ever, y'all were great, and sorry if you ever listen to this and you're embarrassed, but we've all done something funny, and they were laying back on all of our comforters and being like, "Whoa, I love this. What's happening?" And I will never forget that. Now they're insanely huge, and I have this hilarious memory of them from 2007. So
That's great. I cannot believe how big they've gotten.
oh my gosh, man, props to them. But
Yeah, dude. That's another thing. They're the band that always does what they want. They change their sound almost every record, and they do it for them. And people get
that's
pissed,
where I
and
was
then
going.
they get bigger. And 5 years later, everyone else is trying to catch up to what they did before
So
on the last one.
I have a Paul. I have a problem with not getting to my point, and I apologize, but that was my point because the best compliment, one of the best compliments that we've ever gotten, was from Lee, their guitar player. And it was way after our existence. I saw how big they were getting, and I don't know. I came across, Patrick can correct me, this Kerrang UK article, and he credited us. And I'm not trying to blow smoke or something, any stretch the truth, but he gave us a shout out in
Fuck
this
yeah.
article about not to give a fuck about creating what you want to create. And that was amazing to read that from, like, I didn't think we made an imprint on anybody we played with, but apparently we did with him and his writing style. And that was so sweet of him to say and mention us. And I know he made the statement. I don't know if they exist anymore. And obviously we all lost touch. And then I kind of reconnected with Lee through the band Instagram a little bit, just to kind of give them
Cool.
a quick hey, yeah. And he wrote back and was like, "Man, we were talking about that tour, and just good for them, man. That's awesome." But so funny. But that's what it's all about: is doing what you want to do on your own terms. And if you lose fans who aren't willing to grow with you as artists or creators, then bye bye.
Yeah, and you'll gain new ones who appreciate it.
You will. You will. Um, and yeah, just funny stuff. But I feel like for this kind of conversation purposes, like that's kind of what also screwed us a little bit at the same time. We just were not on the level to be able to overcome it. But that's fine. And I'm happy with how life played out and how, everything went the way it did.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, some of the stuff would never have, I don't even think would have occurred unless we had huge support from certain people and been able to even like jump into certain circumstances. And I mean, I'm happy to do some storytelling if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, that's what we're fucking here for.
All right, so
Let me pop
I
into Zen.
pop pop you a little upper lippy Zimbabwe, a little African sugar.
Zimbabwe. I've never heard that. That's amazing.
Oh, dude, there's so many of those little things.
Six
I'm
milligram cool mint only.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah. Okay, very well. Oh yeah, is that what you're? Is that what you like?
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny. So story time. I was trying to compare our conversations to Sean and Jimmy, so I'm going to kind of bring a little bit different flavor and go down memory lane a little bit. And
Yeah.
we were talking about kind of jogging each other's memories on like bands of old and things we experienced, but I don't think I would have ever done anything with my life if I hadn't like tasted the band and accomplishing something. You have a goal
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what are you going to do? I hated school. I was an asshole and just mad about everything. And, this angsty, like a lot of us. And that's just how it is.
Same here.
And you get the opportunity to play music and you have this creative outlet and you're like, man, I love this. And I'm very fortunate. I think you were talking about your mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, as I'll get this funny story about especially my mother, who I love dearly, not believing that we were on a record label until the record comes out and she goes to the store to buy it. And then they're like, oh, this actually is real.
Yeah, I had the same issue going, no, I trust me, Mom, it's real. She's like, do you trust these people? Is this for real? I'm like, no, they're scamming us. Yeah.
Yeah, so funny. But, my dad was a huge supporter of us. So shout out Greg, or G. That's his grandpa name is G. So G at the time was, like probably like, thank God, um, Billy and his buddies are doing something.
Yeah.
And he would take us to practices, when we're in high school and can barely drive. Take us to shows, dude, we're supposed to go to school the next day and we're, at a hardcore show, like on a weeknight. Um,
It's all that
he,
mattered.
that's all that mattered. And he's fronting us. He's like, well, we're going to teach you how to run this as a business. I'm like, okay, G, all right. He's fronting us money, capital to print our first round of shirts ever. And we got to pay him back, and it was hilarious. And it gave me this motivation to be like, okay, well, I need to graduate high school so that I can go on tour because I want to do this with my brothers. I want to write music, play crazy, loud, heavy music, and go on tour and get on a label. I don't know, somebody that can support us because we don't have money. And like I said, we were like 16, 17 years old, and my other one of my oldest and dearest best friends, Brian Vernon, who I will never stop singing his praises. He had a local record label kind of punk support system conglomerate. I don't even know how to describe this. It was like a not-for-profit help young dudes playing punk music of any kind do something.
That's
And
awesome.
so it's called Smith 7, and we always shout him out and put their logo in something. And he's been doing this forever. So if it really wasn't for Brian and me meeting him at shows, he worked at a record store. We befriended me and the guys. I actually was his roommate for a while as well. I mean, we would have never done shit. Um, our first taste of like, man, we might be able to do something was because he encouraged us to go record and then financially supported us. We obviously paid him back. Now I think some people that took advantage of him, but I was like, we're paying this guy back, and we've been best buds since. And he's not even into heavy music. Um, but we went and recorded with Kurt Ballou from Converge at God City.
Yeah, I was going to ask, was that your first, not your first recording with the band, but your first major record, right?
Yeah, that was our first, like, we're going to do a full length. We had done all these demos in like various studios and of under, the In Case of Fire thing versus early NLT and just not of quality, but just early stuff when you're at the merch table, like $3 for this burned CD with like upside down crosses on it and like
Yeah.
weird drawings, you know?
Yeah.
Just like metal and stupid stuff to just get a reaction out of somebody. So yeah, it was our first real, experience. And
Did you guys
Kurt,
just choose to go there and get
yeah,
it funded, or was that a label thing, or?
no, this was us. It was me in high school emailing Kurt, asking him if he had availability, and we would like to come record with him over a week.
That's so cool.
And this was early in his, I think, doing stuff, and he wasn't super busy. And he was like, send me some demos, and he was like, yeah, cool, man, let's do it. And at the same time, um, it kind of coincided with our victory opportunity. I'll kind of get into that, but it all happened all at the same time, man. Like you're listening to all these bands, you're watching artists come through your hometown constantly, and we were the kind of the kids of the group always, and we looked up to everyone, and we were like, well, we want to kind of do it like this. Maybe we can kind of take that sound. So the songs from our Victory full length called The Faithless that came out in 2006, all of those songs were written when we were 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
And and they were all originally recorded by Kurt Ballou and then turned down by Victory and made to re-record. So we get up with Kurt, who, and is the Southern saying, bless his heart. This guy did not. I don't think he wanted anything to do with us once he met. We were kids. He's letting us come in there. Darren's farting on everything and stinking it up. Sebastian's eating his boogers and everything, spilling beer in the original God City.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
acting a fool and like just ridiculous. And everybody stinks. I remember somebody going, Kurt, can we stay with you? And he was like, no. Like, hell no, man. We don't even know you. Why would you even ask that?
Can we stay with you? That's what you're used to on tour at the time.
Yeah.
At the end of the show, anyone got a house where you could sleep on the floor?
We're just little kids, basically just graduating high school or nearly, looking up to this guy who plays in Converge.
Right. And this was what year?
This was 2005.
Okay.
And we're fanboying out, like going down in this basement, looking at all the masters of all these awesome records, like from Cave In to, I can't even think of like anything, just like anything that he did early.
Amazing
like
shit.
Cave In stands out because I remember seeing the master of the tape downstairs, and that sticks out in my brain. But he did so much stuff, and we fanboyed, geeked out. I mean, he even like thereafter, in between like us doing stuff, I'd like message him and he'd get me on a guest list to go see them play. And we were kids, and he was so nice to us to oblige and be kind and be like kind of cool to us. So it's a funny memory.
Then, like mid-20s?
Probably, or maybe a little bit older. I don't know how old he is. I always imagined him as this forever late 20s, early 30s kind of guy.
Right.
And I haven't talked to him in quite some time. And I think Matt reached out to him via email, because Matt's in the audio world, and let him know that we finally released the God City stuff. But I don't know if he gave a shit or not that it never actually got released at the time. We were, very embarrassed, but also dumb and children, and didn't know how to stick up for ourselves and, say, we have this record. So we also, I'd be, wrong for not sharing her name as well, but Katie Robinson was an early friend of ours, and without her as well, so Brian funding this God City expedition, we weren't signed. We just wanted to record with someone we liked, got it mastered at West Side. We were just like kind of Jane Doe worshiping, wanted it to be this loud record.
Right.
And we didn't know what we were going to do with it. We were like, well, maybe we can just do it through Smith 7, through Brian's little deal locally. We'll tour regionally, play with some of our friends' bands that are bigger, hop on some stuff. We'll go from there. Well, our friend Katie, she was a head of marketing at Victory at the time, or she did something with marketing where she was very high up and was like, you guys need to send this to Tony and come up and do like audition or something. And I'm like, audition? The fuck? Like, was this like the fucking Battle of the Bands at high school and shit? Like the talent show? It was weird as fuck, dude. Like, I swear to God.
Is that what it was like?
Yes. So, she was the only reason any of this happened. So she's amazing. I haven't talked to her in decades. She wound on doing big and better things. We ultimately signed to Victory. And after we signed, she leaves.
Oh
She
no.
goes, she was our contact on the inside to help us, and she
Right.
left. Um, but kudos to her. She took another job. She was like at major labels stuff like Elektra or something. I don't know. She's in California crushing it, I've heard, in the marketing
Well,
world
she made
of
a good
big.
choice.
Yes, big. Yes, she did. Made a great choice. And so we get this offer from Victory, simultaneously getting an offer from Eulogy Records,
Wow.
who wanted us to sign for like, and props, thank you, Eulogy, for reaching out. I'll never forget reading and I didn't know shit about contracts, but y'all wanted us to sign for like 12 records. And I'm like, I don't know that I could ever write that much music ever. And it was
Yeah,
some
that's a
absurd
lot.
thing. Yeah. I was like, nah, homie, this is weird.
Yeah, that's
And
like for life type shit.
yeah, it is. It was like for life. And, Victories was like, I think 4, and they had significant funding, which was appealing to us because we had no money.
Yeah.
Um, so we wound up doing that, which was in hindsight a mistake. And I, God, man, you like we were so obsessed with y'all and the black market stuff. And I mean, dude, like even knowing that you were in Robinson and that was you is so hilarious because I remember listening to it and being like, this is so sick. Like, I wish we like did some stuff like this and ripped off this or whatever. It's just like funny full circle shit, man. I
Yeah.
think the Victory thing was the beginning of the end immediately. And but I don't hate them. And in fact, I know a lot of people talk very poorly about Tony and his business practices, and I don't have any problem with them. I'm happy to share my side of the story. We were just mismarketed,
Mm.
and we were handled respectfully. The awkwardness of this audition showcase thing where we had to like come up there, dude. We drove up there, played songs in this room, and rocked out like you to like 3 people, and they had like a spotlight behind us, so you're like on a stage with lights, and it was very weird, and you can't see the 3 people that are staring at you, and you're
Oh, that's
like,
so weird.
and for like a metal band, like that's weird, man.
Yeah, you
Like,
feed off the crowd.
yeah,
Like,
and
come
you're
see us
supposed
at
to.
a show if you want to see that, you know?
Exactly. So, and I think Tony was out just standing there, and you're just like rocking out. And at the time, looking back on it, he was doing 3 band deals at a time, and he would sign 3 bands, see how they did off of a record, and then see who he's pushing forward. And that's what he would do. And at the same time was A Day to Remember, who got signed at the same time. In fact, I think they were either right before us, um, and they were wildly successful. And I know they had a falling out. I don't know anything about it, but
I remember
we were
reading
never.
something on Lamb Goat, yeah.
Yeah, we were never treated poorly by Tony or anybody. I think it was just Katie left. They thought maybe we were going to be the next Darkest Hour, uh, and we were not. And those songs, and then also kind of the red flag was, they didn't want to release the Kurt recording, which I don't know if it was beef or something between them, or I know Matt, for people listening, Matt Qualls, our guitarist in Nights Like These, um, is a renowned audio engineer in Memphis, Tennessee. So if you need recordings done down south, holler
Yeah,
at
hit
him.
him
But
up.
hit him up. Easley McCain. Yeah, he's doing it. He's doing it big. But he thinks it was, or recalls it having to be with the analog recording and the dirtiness of it, which was what our sound is. And
Yeah,
Tony
that
didn't
suits you
like that.
guys.
Yeah, Tony didn't like that. He wanted it very polished. So what do idiot 18-year-olds do? Like, yes, sir. Okay, we'll re-record it.
Hmm.
Like, why did we do that? It was so dumb. And it was the best record. Like, it was an amazing recording. And no offense to Andreas Magnuson who redid it, but this was far superior for us. And we screwed up, man. We fucked it up by allowing that to happen. But we didn't know. Like,
No,
we were
and
just trying.
you're like, you want to keep these people happy. They're giving us an opportunity, so just do whatever they say so we can get the record deal, right?
Exactly. And that's what we wanted, because we wanted to be out. I wanted to leave my house, prove to people that I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
and be with my best friends on the road and make music and be wild and eat Taco Bell every night and just
Yeah.
be a complete idiot. And that's what.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was fine, but I do have some regrets about that. But you learn from it. So
Yeah. Have you been in
um,
touch with Kurt that you guys released the God City session?
yeah. So I was kind of mentioning. I think Matt reached out to him and let him know. I don't know if I think Matt may have sent him a little package. I'm not sure. We might. I know. I may need to revisit that so he actually has it.
Mm.
Um, I think he was disappointed, maybe is what I recall, about it not being released.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I was an idiot, man. We were just flying by the seat of our pants trying to figure this shit out, and I'm like, I'm managing this like I know what I'm doing. I don't know shit. I
Yeah.
couldn't even pay bills. Damn. Like,
We
um,
were children trying to make adult decisions, and then yeah, it's
yes.
just like someone above you who can offer you money and marketing and all
Hmm.
this tells you, no, you got to do this. You're just like, yes, sir. All right. Like, you know,
I mean, my dad tried to, I remember him, G advising us a little bit, you know. I mean, shout out to G. Sebastian would not have been able to play bass if G hadn't bought him a speaker cabinet for his stupid ass for not having, he didn't have bass gear. His stuff broke or something. I don't, he still owes G money, by the way,
yeah.
Sebastian. You owe my dad money and he's coming for you. Because he's retired, doesn't give a fuck. But no, man. We so we do the victory thing, sign, uh, get told, do the weird, awkward, audition. Katie leaves to go to major label, goodness, and she's been wildly successful apparently. Congrats to her. Uh, we can't release the God City record, and we have to re-record it. So um, we're like, well, these songs are like our youth. We're already fast, changing what we like. We are already like, we're moving on. I vividly remember like thinking The Faithless is our metalcore masterpiece of 2005, 2006, of early modern metalcore that pulls from so many other influences. We didn't know what we wanted to be. It's obviously very juvenile, and it was fine. The God City record, I think, perfectly displays that. Uh, I remember seeing uh, Cursed and Breather Resist play, which was like a J Tree band from Louisville. And they went on, the Patterson brothers went on, I think, to do Young Widows, who we were also highly influenced by. And watching Cursed and Breather Resist and how loud they were and non metalcore in my like 18-year-old brain, I'm like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, people are already doing what we're doing very well. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, man. Like, let's keep changing and morphing. So, Darren was always, really good at that. Matt had his own kind of flair. Darren was kind of lead. Darren played in Calico System for a little while.
Oh, he did.
Um, yeah, and he was like roommates at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State, with one of the dudes from August Burns Red or something.
Oh,
So he's
nice.
got he's got some weird connects, but we all kind of were kind of changing at the same time, and listening to all sorts of heavy music of any subgenre you can think of, obviously, and that's when they started dabbling in more like smoking a ton of weed, and I was not. I was very still the straight laced, you know, um, front guy, dad of the band. But I think that is like why my vocals like sound almost like more of like a hardcore front guy. Like I always had this mid, um, and I started experimenting with some more of like cracking vocals, spoken word, weird stuff, like kind of flowing in and out of a scream. Not so
Mm.
much as like Pete, Pete, but um, I just got away from the guttural
Right.
deathcore. Shout out Mitch, rest in peace, Mitch Lucker from Suicide Silence. Like he was did it amazing, and I
Yeah.
toured with him and saw him do it every night, and I was like, I'm not this.
He was the goat
Sean,
at that shit.
he was the goat of that shit, man, and
Yeah.
he did it every night to perfection on that tour we did with them, and I was devastated when he passed, man. I all these guys that you like see who do things so well, and especially the OGs of it.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, Sean is an OG, and his like highs. You guys were talking about it. I mean, dude, there is no way. Maybe when I was 16, I could kind of do that.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah, he
It's
said
not
he's like I
happening
have
for
the
me.
opposite problem. My lows are gone now,
Really?
but
That's
he's like I can do the highs all day, and he sounds better than ever on the new shit.
dude. He's crushing it, and like I mean, even when I'm talking to Chris Fox, right? And Fox and I are very close as well. And I did some vocals on their little split EP thing.
Yeah, I
And
listened to that today. It's fucking sick.
you like it? Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get into that too. That was a trip being asked to do
Yeah.
that. But Fox crushes it too. And like so stylistically, my voice, I just think about all these guys that I'm around. I listened to early on. I was like, this I can't do this as good as them without truly manipulating my voice to make it this way. I'm like, let's just be freaking all natural, baby. Let's
Hmm.
just be us.
Yeah.
We're pulling from these other bands. I'm like, The Faithless was great. That's what got our foot in the door. Let's do a 180 and fuck this up a little bit. And
Yeah.
so we do the Victory stuff. We go to Richmond, Virginia, record with Andreas Magnuson. Shout out Andreas. He played drums in that band Scarlet,
Oh fuck yeah.
and he recorded Miasma from the Black Dahlia Murder. And so that was kind of why we jumped it. Like, oh, Miasma sounds. Am I saying that word right? I don't fucking know.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying
and
to. I did my elder
dude,
misanthropy cover the
yeah,
other day. I was
yeah,
like, misanthropy? What the
yeah,
fuck is this word?
dude.
I looked it up
You
to be sure.
you know who's really good at saying these words is Mr. James Watson is very good at
Yes.
pronouncing these crazy ass words. So we were go record with Andreas, who it was awesome, but it wasn't. It was really produced, and it
Mm.
wasn't really our style. And he did his damnedest to make it good.
And you're still talking
And
about the Faithless riff.
Faithless, yeah, this
Okay.
is
Yeah.
like the victory version, and it just didn't have it, man. It just didn't have what we needed, and it was fine. It sold records. People were into it. We got on some cool tours. But we'd already started writing Sunlight at Second Hand, which is our second Victory release, and it was totally different, completely different. Even the recording style was different, and it was purposefully done that way. And people fucking hated it, but then
Yeah.
people loved it from a different world. And we just were never marketed right on Victory, um, and that's probably our fault. It's probably their fault, um, and who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. We
Uh,
went through the same shit. You just don't know when you're that young. Like
you don't know,
you
man.
make bad decisions. You need a good manager to tell you don't do this or do that, and you just kind of like you said by the seat of your pants.
That's really what it is. And um, so I kind of referenced the Breather Resist, Young Widows kind of stuff. And, we had kind of changed our sound completely. All the guys were off kind of, super high all the time, writing a bunch of craziness. We kind of had a little bit more of a punk influence and back to kind of our hardcore roots a little bit. I mean, dude, we're at heart, we were hardcore kids. playing in like grindy, spasticky metalcore breakdown. Like we were just dabbling in what we could dabble in to do it, to chase the dream.
Yeah.
And Sunlight really showcased, I think, what we wanted to write.
Yeah. I
And
listened to all of your records today before we
oh
did
wow,
this.
okay,
And
cool.
I started from the Faithless all the way up to now.
Oh wow,
And so I was like noting that in my head. I was like, I can hear where they're going.
yeah.
And Old Youth Culture is definitely my favorite. That thing
Oh
is so
yes,
sick, dude. It's so
you.
good. I
I'm
feel
glad
like
you love it.
you fully realized what you were going for finally, like especially with that break from what was that
Yeah.
2015?
So yeah, it was. We stopped touring in 2008 or nine. So we were only on the road really consecutively. We were on the road for like 3 years straight, and we were just dead because we put
Yeah.
out records back to back. You know how it is. And then we just stopped. But that's fun. That's awesome. You say that. I'm glad you kind of understood that because the Sunlight recording, we went to Louisville and recorded with Chris Owens, who played guitar and fronted a band called Lords, a punk band called Lords.
I remember them.
And he recorded Young Widows and some other stuff. And so we were just kind of like, want this raw garage rock sounding hardcore metal record, whatever you want to call it. Like, we just wanted to be weird and different and make it sound dirty and shitty and be like, fuck you if you don't like it, and we're going to do whatever we want.
Probably
And
making up for the choice that you made to re-record
yes,
the first one.
and
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. And Victory was not happy. They did not like how it sounded. They did not like our choice of who we recorded with. Uh, it was kind of a disaster. I was super happy with it, man. We had our buddy come in and do some weird clean vocals on it. We just were like,
I was
fuck
going to
this
ask about that because you've never done cleans at all, right?
never. No.
Okay,
So
so I
there's
heard it on like the second track, I think it was,
yeah,
and I was like, "Is that Billy or is that a guest?"
no. It's my buddy Rob Huckabee. Shout out Rob. He played in a band called Burn Baby Burn and a band called FASSW. He was just our buddy. And we just were always like friend stuff. If you are a friend, you played in any band, I don't care what band it was, come do this. Come
Yeah.
hang out for a minute. And he just popped on and did some fucking weird clean vocals on this song. And I did clean vocals, but talking, yelling. Like on this, there's a track called Claw Your Way Out where I definitely kind of did some different stuff. And I loved it. And it was heavy. And we played this shit live. I mean, this stuff was heavy live. And it was hard to capture our sound on a recording.
Yeah.
And we always, if we toured with anybody, we wanted to be the loudest band on the bill. The loudest. We got into we started getting exposed to around that time as well to gear and became kind of nerds of that world a little bit too, and boutique amplifiers, and Emperor Cabs gave us a deal, and we had like guitar deals with First Act at the time who just started doing stuff, and we were getting all this boutique stuff through amp heads, and just the guys were going wild with our kind of sound, but also wanting to be just brutally loud. And maybe not even just brutal in a metal sense, but just loud and in your face, like a wall of sound.
It's really
And
hard to capture that on a record properly.
it is. It's almost impossible. And we, did the Sunlight record. We were hyped on it. Paul Romano did the art for it, who did all
Sick.
the Casey Strain and Mastodon stuff, and anybody else, he's touched. It was, we
Yeah,
actually
that's a really
stayed.
sick cover. I was
We
looking at
stayed.
it over here.
We stayed at his house, dude, in
No,
Philadelphia.
no shit.
Yes. Upst- Paul Romano, by the way, bro, you have my button-up plaid shirt from 2007, 8, and it's still at your house, and you never sent it to me like you promised. Um,
Probably your favorite one at the time.
yeah,
too.
it was my favorite, man. It was like a smedi- it was a medium, plaid button-up, and it's gone. But anyways, so
Smedium.
yeah, he had the original Remission. Leviathan, the painting upstairs in his attic.
sick.
It was awesome. It was so unreal that we stayed at this dude's house. He came out to see us when whatever, that Unitarian church in Philly that everybody plays.
Yeah, that place was fun.
Yeah. And so he was awesome, but we were really excited about that record, and it just, it just, nobody got it. The people that got it, that wanted to get it, got it, but like from the Faithless to that, I think in the metalcore world, it was too weird.
Yeah.
And
At the time, I feel like metalcore was going more mainstream. Like after we broke up, I watched all these metalcore bands get huge and we're on Warped Tour and shit, which was like unheard of back in the day. And I'm like, man, we were so early. This sucks.
Yeah, you guys were very early, and I felt like we were very early too, especially given our ages.
I bet your shit would crush if you were starting out now.
I think if we had done it, if we were just a little bit later, and people just didn't get it at the time, and we got a lot of flack for it. Victory, like I said, was not happy. They wound up cutting ties with us after a few more tours, and after that cycle ran its course, which is where I was saying, like, they just were like, hey guys, it's just not working out. And I was like, yeah, it's not working out.
And you were signed for 4 records, you said?
Yeah, and they just let us go.
Wow.
Clean slate.
Yeah.
And we didn't owe anything. Like, it was a clean slate. Yes, dude. It was unreal.
That's fucking fair.
It was very fair. And we were kids, and thank God they didn't, like, screw us and, like, try to take us for everything. But I think they realized we were just kids. And that's why I don't have beef with Tony. And, thank you for giving us a chance, man. Like, that's what I would say to him. Thank you for giving us a chance.
That's all you could hope for at that age,
Yeah. And, I do have some kind of, I'm going through these tour passes I found, the Bury Your Dead, Bring Me the Horizon, Ion stuff, the Suicide Silence, All Shall Perish, Too Pure to Die, Light This City tour.
Wow.
And we played.
Light This City wasn't on the tour with you guys and us, right? We did one with them. I forget who it was with.
No, it was a different tour. The one with y'all was Tony Danza was on that, who was from Nashville. So we had
that's the one who was missing. Yeah.
Yeah, we had that kind of Tennessee connection. And dude, those dudes were like wild and super tech and just heavy and crazy.
They were so heavy.
They had this like kind of new metal like thing to them, but it worked with that kind of tech death metal stuff. Like,
yeah, they had a unique sound for sure.
They did. Then obviously the See You Next Tuesday guys. And then As Blood Runs Black, the Dead to Fall tour we were on. Shout out Dead to Fall. Love those guys. They always were kind to us. Ed Gein. Like, this is so funny. Heavy Lolo headlining tour with support from Ed Gein.
That's crazy.
And Stand Before the Firing Squad. I can't remember. They were on there. And
oh, yeah. Where were they from?
They were a California band, dude. I don't know if they were actually on it. Maybe I'm misremembering. They're on the Pass.
We were friends with them, I feel like.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I talked to on Instagram for years after that. I forget his name, so apologies if he's watching. But I was confused that with another band that sounded similar. Like,
and then, dude, I have this pass for California Metal Fest. FASSW played it. Let's see. Saturday, Sunday, Caliban headlined, and then the first night, and then Suffocation headlined the second night. So funny. What are we doing?
What year was that?
This has got to be 2006. That
was probably before I joined then.
I think it was. Cattle Decapitation played with you guys, Job for a Cowboy, Embrace the End. Shout out Embrace the End. They stayed at my parents' house a couple times. Bleeding Kansas, Animosity, Darkest Hour. So funny, man, all these bands. But that's what I mean. Like, I don't think we ever fit what we were doing. And I wish, in hindsight, we had waited. But we never would have met the people we met at the time we met them and created these friendships that span many years. And
True.
Had the opportunities we did. I even look back at one of our first tours. I was kind of holding off on this, that we did not fit at all. And I have so many funny memories of like this tour, but it was Sworn Enemy.
Oh, we toured with them one time. They're cool guys.
They're crazy. And I love them. They're from Queens.
Crazy and cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out. What's one of the guys, Stevie? Maybe he was on that tour from their
I
band,
can't
their
remember their
roadie or something.
names.
He tattoos in Queens right now. He reached out to me not long ago. Awesome guy. On Broken Wings with support. I'll never forgive John Blake for pantsing me when I was like 18 years old, and I wasn't wearing boxers in front of everybody, and I was very embarrassed. But it's awesome that they're doing big stuff. They had like a vinyl reissue, and they played some big fest, and it's just good to see those guys. And like, we just looked up to all these dudes. We were kids. Who else? Black My Heart, and just a hardcore tour, and fights constantly. There
Hmm.
was like riots, stabbings, fights, like
Yeah.
crazy, dude. The craziest stuff I have ever witnessed on
We
what I think occurred on that tour.
we always kind of felt the same way of like we don't quite fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
Like
Do you feel that
even
way?
uh I did. I feel like now, like I don't know, before, like the EP has its own sound for this
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
And it was very melodic but
Hmm.
heavy, but it wasn't standard straight up metal. It wasn't death metal. It
No, it
like just had
wasn't.
all these different elements of things.
Hmm.
That's why I think they had so much success starting out. Is it was
Hmm.
unique.
It
And
was.
then they
It was
did
very unique. Yeah.
Delinda, which kind of
Hmm.
grew on that sound, and then they got Will, and there was some clean vocals for the first time. They did Ghosts Over Japan, so like the rest of the record was so heavy though, and even faster and crazier than the EP, but it just didn't land like the EP did. And then we
Hmm.
did Conversations, and we're like doing the fuck it, we're gonna do what we want thing. So we started writing those songs, playing those songs live on tour before that record, and it was just like we're just in this in between. We're kind of doing this like Deftones thing, but then we have these
Hmm.
old heavy songs, and then our like booking agent at the time kept getting us tours with like these super heavy death metal bands or hardcore bands, and we're like we should be more like with fucking Under Oath or someone like that, you know, and
I agree.
and we could
I
just
mean,
never
you're on
kind of
it.
get it there. And then so that made the shows go like, yeah, a lot of the times for us because the crowds weren't super into it. Had we toured through Conversations and those people who like it now found it, you know, who knows what would have happened. But
Yeah.
like our fans are kind of split from like old and then the people who found us after we broke up and then were like, oh, I never thought I'd get to see you live. And I found Conversations in like 2010 or whatever, and it's my favorite one. So we kind of
Dude,
have these two groups, and now we're just again going. We're going to do whatever the hell we want. Sean's back. We feel like being heavy, so that's the mood we're in.
I think that's the beauty of like having connections with the guys, the friends that you have that you write music with, um, and being able to do that for a while, drop it and pick it back up and continuing it when it's necessary. You put it perfectly, and I'll probably get to this at the end of our conversation, but like when you needed it, it appeared and
Mm-hmm.
it was there.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, I'll just say it now. Like Joe and I talked probably from us all stopping. I think nights like these continue to tour after FASSW for a little while. Maybe we did a couple of runs. Um, and but Joe and I definitely kept the most in touch. And man, like when he called me and we were talking about this in the summer of 23, rather than 23, summer of 23.
Before the
Um,
reunion show. Yeah.
yeah, before the reunion show. And he was like, we want you guys to do it. Have you guys practiced in a while or have you guys done anything? I was like, no, but we will. and, but I'll, I'll, you know, I'll say it now. Um, if like that saved my life, and I don't mean to get dark and emotional,
Go
and
for it.
maybe we should because no one's done that yet on your podcast. And if
I'll
anybody is
I'll do it
emotional,
with you.
if anybody is emotional or highly sensitive about anything, it's me. And I mean, I went. I mean, dude, when I stopped playing, I just think back to the Sunlight at Secondhand record. We did those tours. Um, our booking agent at the time, Ash Avildsen, who does Sumerian Records now, um, he trashed us. And I forgive him if he ever listens to this shit. I forgive you, buddy. Um, and same with Sean Keith, who played guitar in Calico System, who was like our buddy. Who I think he's like co CEO of Sharp Tone or whatever, and he's doing his thing. He's very successful. They both shit on us and talked mad shit about Sunlight at Secondhand. And I'm like, guys, we're kids and we're creating. And also, we have the balls enough to tell everybody, fuck you, and we're going to write whatever we want to write. And we did it. And I think Chris Owens, even the guy from Lords who recorded us, by the way, Chris, don't leave your computer open when you have bands around and leave your email logged in to see that you talk shit on the band you're recording.
Ooh, you fucked up.
Yeah, you fucked up, Chris. But I think he realized that we weren't pieces of shit, and he wound up hanging out with us, and it was fine. I haven't talked to him in forever, and I hope you're doing well, bud. But you know, all that stuff, it puts a chip on your shoulder, and I look back on how we could have handled things differently, and we coulda, woulda, shoulda. It all went the way that it did, and I think the one thing that I can still say that we did the right thing was we did what we wanted to do.
Yep.
Everybody in the group will say that, and Patrick will preach it. We talked about that, I think this morning or yesterday, was, we always did what we wanted to do, and that's what FASSW does, and that's why we get along so well. And everybody does what they want to do, and you have this connection to these other human beings that most people... Success is whatever you want it to be. And you can say, you sold all of this, you made this much money, you're successful. Or, hey, guess what? I toured the country and other countries with my brothers, made some memories, and did shit that most people on this earth will never do. Mm-hmm. And we did it.
Absolutely.
And we wrote stuff and created art that nobody else has the balls to even do. You put your own, like you, Paul, you wrote your own music and guitar riffs and notes and did it. Even with this podcast, you're putting yourself out there. And like writing lyrics, putting yourself out there in that way, anything that's a creator does, that takes balls. And most people don't have the balls or the backbone to do that. And so that's success to me. But when Sunlight and that kind of thing went down, we had a falling out in the band. Not really, I wouldn't say a falling out. We were kids who were emotionally charged and upset. We were broke, tired of getting $100 guarantees and $5 per diems a night. We were tired. People were arguing over stupid stuff. We were just worn out. Kind of like
the basics aren't taken care of, everything else becomes really annoying, and you do that for years and years. You can't blame anyone for going, well, fuck this,
Yeah.
And then later on, when you're comfortable, you go, man, I miss living my dream. But there was a reason you stopped, because it's fucking hard. It's really hard.
It's hard. And I think maybe I didn't survive as well because I didn't drink at the time. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it was 23 hours of the day sitting there, bored or just like bummed. And
like Jimmy said, tour is hurry up and wait.
It's hurry up. Yeah. It's hurry up and wait. And I was panicky. I was struggling. I've always struggled with some mental health stuff, and I'll kind of get into that as far as kind of the reunion stuff goes. But I'm not like ashamed to talk about that, and I think more people in music should talk about that. I mean, it's always after the fact if someone's struggling that you bring it up. But I think, I definitely struggled with that on the road. I was very upset, and, I was depressed, anxious, and you don't really know why because you're chasing this dream. You're like, why are you sad? Mm-hmm. And I think it was because I'm a creature of habit. I was out of my normal routine, and your basics weren't being taken care of. And it's hard to be punk rock hardcore dude living in a van or a bus or a converted RV and be super cool all the time.
Yeah.
And
Never have privacy. You don't have
yeah,
your own bathroom, your own shit.
no. And you know, you might get a couple shows that are amazing, and then you get a lot of them that are duds, that are weeknighters, or the weather sucks, and
Yeah. After you drove 8 hours
yeah,
and
you
you get
just
paid $100.
yeah, and that was us, and I'm proud of us and how we did it. But anyways, back to the point of it was Patrick wound up stepping down. We tried to have a couple fill in drummers that just weren't Patrick. He's Nights Like These. That's my brother, and he's one of the core songwriters. I mean, we all write the music, but he's one of the core writers of even riffs of ideas, and it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't the same. And I wound up playing in like a uh, pop punk band called Fire Catapults with my buddy Brian, who kind of helped us in the beginning. And
Why do we have the same story? I joined a pop punk band
dude,
later.
I don't. Yeah, but you were in L.A. I was in Memphis playing house shows, um, and
What did you do in that band? Were you saying?
I played guitar.
Oh, you did? Nice.
Yeah, and
I
it
didn't
was
know
a
if you had
fun.
kept up with it at all, like over the years, or
No,
you just
it
picked it
was
back up.
no, it was kind of a short-lived thing. We had a great time with it, and it kind of allowed me to continue to be a part of a group. But it wasn't the NLT stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
it kind of gnaws at you. Patrick left, the drummer stuff didn't work out. We had fill-ins, we did some regional stuff, played with some other cool bands, and we wound up just being like, screw it. I had to get a real job. Um, Matt's dad, shout out Lieutenant Qualls. He got me involved in the medical. He was like, "Man, you'd be great on the ambulance. We need more guys like you." And I was like, "I don't know what that is, but I'll do it. Shit, I need to make money." Um, I went and started working on the ambulance and um, doing medical stuff in that world and in Memphis. And dude, and I left the band stuff behind, and I. It's really weird to think about something that you committed your life to, like purely and wholly,
Mhm.
every part of you, and then denying that it exists.
Yeah.
And I did that. Um, and it was, my reasons were I need to go back to school. I need to make a living. I need to grow up. And I thought the two things couldn't coexist. Um,
I think
and
we're all realizing that they can now, which is crazy.
yeah, I know. And I'm like, I thought they couldn't coexist, so I let it go.
Well,
And
back then too, you had to be on tour all the time. That's like it was
yeah,
the thing to do.
I think Paul, my main regret, and this is why after a reunion show, I told you I'm going to check in on my brothers, and that includes you, and all the guys, because I have missed out on so much, and I have so much regret, and it hurts. I have lost so much time that I have to make up with people that I cared about and that I did really amazing things with, and I mean, it makes me emotional now to talk about. Like I let it go. And keep in mind, I was trying to do good things. I was on the ambulance. I went to nursing school. I mean, I for from through most of my 20s, after post Nights Like These, or the original Nights Like These, I went to school full time, and um, I got my 13-year-old serving me beverages.
Oh, nice.
uh, um, he's a good dude. But I went at post Nights Like These. I went to school full time and worked full time. I basically shut off everybody that I ever met. I never did social media. really. I think I had an Instagram for like a blip of a second. Um, but I didn't really do social media. I didn't exist.
Mhm.
And I kind of liked it in a way because it made me forget about things that were painful, like not talking to people I cared about. Like I just forgot about that part of my life.
Right.
I need to be an adult. And, I had my son, and found I was going to be a dad, and I was forced into, um, you have to be a dad now. I'm going to, of course, and me, I'm going to step up to the plate. And, you got to be a dad, and then, hey, you're going to be a husband. And neither of which I was ready for at the time. I was probably a better dad than anything. And, you feel a lot of external pressures to succeed
Mhm.
from families and the society, and I say goodbye to a huge part of me to become the next version of myself, which was a dad and a husband. And um, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just trying to do the right thing. It was very hard, and I went to school nonstop, man, and I just pummeled myself in my education and academia, and ultimately wound up having two kids, two boys who are my world, and the reason why I have survived anything. And I mean,
That makes sense why you'd pull away though, because it's like
yeah.
that's an important thing. I'm the only one without kids in this band,
Mhm.
so which was what the big reason I imagined that if I asked them to do this again,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah,
all 40s, late 30s at the time, they're definitely going to say no. So,
dude,
yeah.
it's a wild ride to have children for sure.
Mm.
These kids have been so perfect. Like I'm just glad they were who they were, and it turned out wonderful. And I think I look back on all of it. I worked on the ambulance, became an RN, worked as a nurse forever, and finished my bachelor's degree. Graduated with honors, went to grad school, got a master's degree.
That's
Um,
incredible, man.
Practiced as a nurse practitioner in neurosurgery and in general neurology. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's more full circle metal than practicing in neurosurgery and doing brain and spine surgery.
Yeah, that is insane. So what
But
is your actual title now? Are like
so now God, man, like boys were born. I went to school forever and worked full time, and all I knew was medicine. And you know, God, you just I was a cowboy. I chased everything very extreme because just like in music, I
yeah,
wanted to like chase something. When I got into this, chase that too.
and you
Many
won't make it
mistake
anywhere in music if you don't have that attitude. Especially
exactly, and
back then, you
oh,
can't
dude,
just
for
get
sure,
famous online.
for sure, yeah. And I think, um, dude, I just mistakes were made along the way. It was hard doing all of it growing up, learning to be all of these things. Something's gonna just mess up, and it was challenging. Um, After I went to grad school and I finished my board certification as an NP, I moved to Missouri, where I live now. Another thing, another weird sacrifice of pushing things away. Like I need to take this step to be the next version that's even better.
Hmm.
It's funny how that never happens because you
Yeah,
can't change. You have to just be you, and you can't keep
yeah.
changing things. So I practiced in neurosurgery here at a hospital in Southwest Missouri. Uh, had a it was awesome and awful. Saw a lot of death, saved a lot of lives. I think did a lot of good things. Also worked in a very hard environment that is not for everyone, and it was hard. It was very hard.
I'm sure, dude. I don't know
Um,
anything about that world.
I I left that after a falling out with my surgeon that I was working in tandem with. Uh, left to go do general neurology, thinking, hey, I'll go into a clinic, I'll treat epilepsy and movement disorder and anything neuro, just not surgery, and just be in an office.
Mm.
And I wasn't the same. It was just wasn't for me. So to answer your question, my title now, I kind of got poached into the pharma sales world, which they,
Oh
going
yeah, you
from
were telling me that. Yeah.
going from clinical medicine to this role, they call it the dark side. Oh, oh, how could you do that? Man, like I gotta find something I'm good at, but I get to help people in a very big sense now. And so I just took a little bit of a promotion. I'm an account specialist for a big international pharmaceutical company. I work in the neuroscience sector, and I train a lot of doctors to use our products to help their patients and be successful in what they're treating in the neuro world. And it's in line with my background, and it's actually been amazing. And I would have never had that opportunity if I didn't do all of these things. But
Dude, that's cool as fuck. I bet the last thing anyone thinks who had no idea is that's what you do now. Because I remember when we were in Michigan last year and we played with Flesh and Blood Robot and Billy Strings and all that, you were starting. I was like, wait, you're a what? Like you're fucking doing surgeries and shit?
Yeah, like most people don't understand. Like I'm kind of it's an anomaly, but yes, I was a neurosurgical nurse practitioner. To anybody that's listening that knows anything about that, yes, I was in the OR. I opened brains and backs and necks.
That's fucking wild, dude.
I did all of it. And I was paired with a neurosurgeon, and we took care of everything. I did a lot of it, and I learned a lot. I worked with my hands. I was very good at it, but it was hard. Did some outpatient, like you need to go see a neurologist. I worked in one of those offices as an NP, and you would sometimes come see me for various neurological issues. So yeah, that segued into the big pharma world where, there's some things that I could probably speak on, you think about big picture stuff like, oh, anti-big pharma, big insurance, fuck the man. Dude, I honestly, like, my job is cool. I get to help a lot of people that have very specific problems and teach their doctors how to be very good at what they do and partner with them.
Yeah.
My boss is cool as shit. It's been the best scenario, and I wouldn't have gotten here. My counterpart's cool. I wouldn't have gotten here without any of, like, taking these chances and going through bullshit.
So a lot of people who say that shit, it's like, can we improve the system? Of course. But, like, they also have no fucking clue how it works, how hard it is to make all this happen. And, like, what's the alternative? Do you have a better system that you could just replace it with? Because sure as fuck don't. Like, there's a reason people fly from all over the world to come and get shit handled here. Like,
yeah, it's true. And
I'm not saying there isn't evil insurance companies and things that happen. There's a lot of terrible things, but I don't know. I just like, okay, shut the fuck up if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to me is, man, I love helping people, and that's not bullshit. I just do.
Yeah.
And I like that. It makes me feel good about myself to help other people. And if I can use my knowledge or background or any little part of me to help anybody, that's why I like medicine. And that's why I got into it. And that's not bullshit. It's just the truth. And
well, you've done a lot of amazing shit in the time that you spent away from music. And I know you want to like beat yourself up over not talking to people and like pushing away, but like having 2 kids, having this amazing career and doing all this stuff, like you've done all that, accomplished that. It's amazing. You have a great life and you're still young. And then now that your kids are older, you can actually revisit music and it's more special to you now with that giant break and coming back and being more mature and more experienced. You can approach it the same way we are and kind of like, this feels great. We can do it on our terms, still have that do whatever the fuck we want mentality, but you don't have a label over your shoulder. You're not
Yeah.
required to go on tour for months at a time. So
I
you
think,
said, it helped you out when Joe
yeah.
called, and I know you want to get into that more, but same for me. And I had that long break, but I didn't do all the the awesome shit that you did. I went to LA and partied and
Dude, you,
thought maybe I'll be an actor, maybe I'll write a show.
but you chased
Tried
it
all these
though,
things.
man.
Yeah,
Paul,
I did.
you did something though. You weren't stagnant.
Yeah.
And that's what it is about. You took steps, man. And
Yeah.
some people don't ever take the step. And it's dark, it's hard. You talked about it. You were depressed. You were
Yeah.
you were down, you were sad. You had
I
no
think
meaning,
you said it
you know.
earlier, like going on tour changed your life and your outlook as far as
Mhm.
like going after things, whatever. And it absolutely changed my life. Like I came from a small town where I'm living at again now. And
Yeah.
I knew that like, if I didn't have this band, there's nothing here for me. So I had to leave. But luckily I had this group of amazing dudes, whether it be Robinson or FASSW. And I was in 2 bands that were able to do that. Like I am so fucking lucky. And then going all over the place and seeing all these other places and meeting all these people and being like, wow, California is fucking amazing. People actually live here. Like they actually afford it. And like,
Yeah.
there's another life out there outside of Ohio. And like, then we went to Europe twice, and that changes you forever, especially when you're doing it from something you created and wrote songs in your fucking underwear in your room. And then you go somewhere across the ocean and someone's singing that song, it's fucking insane. So you go, oh, wow, like big things are possible. I can achieve things if I just take the steps, like you're saying, like just fucking do it. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck,
Yep.
but
Just do it.
It's so worth it to just get out of your comfort zone. And that's why when the band broke up, I just said, fuck it. I have no money. I don't care. I'll be homeless on the beach in California. I got to go. And it was the best decision I made, but there was that hole in me this whole time of music. I did that pop punk band out there, whatever, but like you said, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Not the same guys. And but yeah, I think moral of the story is just if you want to do something, chase it. And
You have to.
go, if it's not touring in a band or whatever it is, like find something that can get you out of your comfort zone and just change your perspective, see other things, have experiences. So
You
important.
have to. I am thankful for the risks that I took and the things that I pursued that, were difficult and scary and strange, and required me to abandon a lot of other things. But that's caused so much growth for me personally,
Yeah.
and experiencing so many other things that not music industry related or music or creativity period, but just the medicine world or medical world or clinical practice world or whatever. I can't, if I did not say I'm gonna go, I want to be an NP that actually operates, it would have never happened. It doesn't, people, NPs don't really go into surgery. That's a
Yeah.
PA, a physician assistant type of thing, as an aside. But I said, fuck that. I'm going to do it. Then I figured out a place that they did that. And I was like, let's go. But you have to take those risks, like you said. And I think, kind of to get back on track from what I was saying, like I did all those things, and I appreciate you saying all those kind things about, me accomplishing that stuff. And I did it for my boys. And I had to, and if it wasn't for them, I don't know that I would have, but they created this fire in me that was like, you will not fail. And they are my entire world, my drive, the only reason why I continue to do what I do and survive and every day and wake up.
Yeah.
And, we get to, as I've been in Missouri, and Joe is calling me, and this is to kind of bring it back home to the reunion idea. That saved my life. I was not doing well, and you wake up for your kids and you keep fighting, your mental battles, and I know you've been there. And I think a lot of us have. And, I talked to a lot of our mutual friends about this stuff because we need to talk about it. And it was, dark times, man. And, things were not easy, and I accept responsibility for things that I've contributed to, and things happen the way they do. Um, but the coinciding of that phone call and the idea of this reunion and being like, "Hey, we want you guys to play," coincided with a separation and a divorce for me, and that had been going on, for a while, and and kind of leading up to this, point of like kind of this rough, thing. And um, the same time period, of this thing, like, I mean, it saved me. It saved my life. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't be here, but
Mhm.
I mean, what are the odds, man? Like, I'm
It's
going through
crazy.
this. I'm divorced now. I'm in my own place. I got my kids. I'm, pulling through, but like,
You needed
I
something
don't
else.
I don't know where I would have been.
Yeah.
And I was lost. And Joe calls me, brings this stuff up. We start going down this path. I get the guys on board, Matt, Sebastian, Darren, and Patrick and I always talk because we've been homies since day one. And everybody's like, "Let's do it." And then that starts it. And then you
Mhm.
start practicing. I'm driving back in town to rehearse. I'm driving to like start doing this stuff. And we start like having like creating these memories and moments like you guys do at practice, like all of us do, like
Mhm.
with like when you're writing and I mean, we're just trying to relearn songs we haven't played in forever, just like you guys. And
Yeah,
like,
we're still doing that.
yeah. And it was so good, and just it was good, and it
Yeah, it
just
was like
felt
I remember this. I remember why it was so important to me and the feelings that it gave me and why there's been a
yes,
hole in me for 15 years
yeah.
where I couldn't fill with anything else.
That was the hole that was in me, and I was denying that it existed because I thought I had to be medical guy,
Yeah.
academic guy. You don't
It's
talk
also
about
easy to say
this.
I'm too old now to be doing that.
Yeah,
Like, and it's like, no, you're
yeah.
fucking not. Who gives a
No,
shit?
who gives a shit? It's just it doesn't matter. And you know what? That happening and driving up with the guys and seeing y'all and playing and seeing the See You Next Tuesday guys and Fox and Drew, and then meeting Jimmy, who I'd never met, and then Rick, who I'd never met because Travis was in the band, and like
Right.
they had changes. Shout out Travis, finally got to like re-see him because of the See You Next Tuesday stuff. Like, God, man, it made me feel alive and good
Yes.
and worthy and happy,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm doing something that's scratching that itch and making me feel like I have more purpose. And yeah, I'm a dad. Yes, I am, and I have a lot of purpose. But
Yeah.
holy fuck, man,
But
if
that's
you
a
if you did
personal
this
thing
for
that's
something,
different.
yeah,
And that's what I tried to explain
most people,
that to my
yeah,
girlfriend because she would be like, "But you have me."
hmm,
I'm like, I know, but this is something personal to me that is
yeah,
missing. It's completely different
yeah,
from a relationship with you. Like if I don't feel worthy of myself, I'm not going to be good
hmm,
for you. And so I
dude,
need to
that's
figure out
that's
what
it.
that is. It went through years of just like being unhappy.
Hmm. And man, like hearing you talk about your story on that first episode, like you and I talked a little bit, but like hearing that side of you, like, man, I think I'm glad you talk about like the reality. I think that's why like the podcast is so cool. Like, and I hope that other artists and creators and people from our world that come on talk about, some of the bad stuff, the
Yeah.
negative things, because not to say, I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that like we need to have conversations about this stuff because it connects us. And the
Yes.
more connection you have, the more powerful you feel and the better you feel about yourself. And you have other people in this community of people that did this,
Yeah.
and we lost it and we got it back. So I think seeing you guys at that reunion, you know, man, it was unreal. I felt finally like good, and I
Yeah.
hadn't felt that good in so long. And it wasn't because I'm the front man and I'm on stage, and
No,
it
it's
was
the whole process,
it's
the
the
whole
whole
day of
process,
being there and loading in
the prep,
and
Yeah.
hanging out, sound check.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, oh, I'm back in it. Like, the whole thing feels good. It's like,
Did you,
yeah,
when
I have
you're
a
on
purpose.
stage, do you look at the other guys and kind of smile with each other and like you have those
Yes.
moments where you're giggling
When
maybe
we,
or
when we first walked out, so I was freaking out a little bit, not like terribly, but good nerves, just
yeah,
like, oh,
I
holy
remember.
shit.
I
Yeah.
remember.
So we walk in the back and there's like all the bowling pin machines,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm walking around kind of pacing, and like Will is just sitting there going la 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 la, like warming up, and I'm going, all right, I'm dumping water on my head, and like you
Oh
have that,
shit.
it's like 30 seconds till we go out and the intro's playing and the lights are all red and like Indiana Jones scary ass
Mm-hmm.
song is playing, and I'm like, it's real, here we go, there's no turning
Yep.
back now, and you just have that
Mm-hmm.
holy shit moment. So we come out, crowd starts yelling. We made those new boxes with the lights in them. So I step up on there. Rob gets up on the other side, and there's this one moment that you could see in the video from that show. We both look at each other and like give like a big smile, and then boom, we start the song.
Dude,
So it was just like, holy fucking shit. 15
y'all
years later, we're doing it.
y'all were so good. And I'm glad that's why I wanted to ask you because that's what we did. And like those moments where you're like you smile at your buddies and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
let's go boys, let's do the damn thing.
Yeah, you're a
Like
fucking team and a family. Like,
it feels like good. And then like I mean like seeing you guys and everybody dapping each other up and everybody's kind of in their own head, like not watching all the sets, but like
yeah,
just doing it. It's kind of like y'all were stressed too, because it was a whole thing. I get it, but I'm glad you
yeah.
took that moment to just smile because that's what I cared about. And
Mm-hmm.
getting that call, going through this process, saved me, man. And
Mm-hmm.
Patrick and I talked about that, and it allowed us to practice, hang out, have laughs with the guys. Matt's so busy recording people. Darren's running a company. Sebastian's
Yeah,
busy with work. I'm going through all sorts of bullshit and work and family stuff and whatever. And Patrick the same. And it brought us this silence to our minds for a moment where we could
yes,
just be guys playing music and loving it and like we're 18 years old again. And
yeah.
it's not forever. And but I almost am like of subscribed to the ideas that there doesn't have to be an end.
No,
Like you can even with bands like you have this name and you have this title. It doesn't ever have to end. You could be like
no.
you could change sounds a million times, still do the same shit. I mean, dude, I'm just saying. I hope you guys always do it, and I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
get
think
more. Keep going.
we
Go
had
ahead.
we had no plan for an end. Like,
Yeah.
we it was first, like, I think Joe said, like, maybe we should do a reunion show, and we were all kind of like, can we do
Mm-hmm.
that? Like, Nick hadn't played drums in years, Rob hadn't played guitar. I had taken a long break, but I'd at least played somewhat, and it was just like, can we do this at all? And then it turned into, okay, now we're going to write new songs, and then okay, we can do 5 shows this year, and we first were like, okay, let's do 1 year, but then we're like, why do we have to put a stopping date on it? Because we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. If
Mm-hmm.
we want to drop a song, we can. If we want to write an EP, we can. And who cares if it takes us however long in between? Because there's just no pressure.
Yeah.
And so that makes it like, yeah, we can end it whenever we want. And when we want to end it, we can. And you'll be happy with that. Like, okay, I got to
Mm-hmm.
reopen this chapter that ended on a bad note in 2007 or 8,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was. And we came back, righted all our wrongs, made better music than we ever did, and did it right. Played Furnace Fest, which was fucking
Dude,
bucket list thing.
and I'm
Like,
sorry. I wanted to come and watch you. I'm so sorry I couldn't make it.
all good, dude. That's a big trip to ask.
I want the boys to come see you guys because they hear me talking about you all the time, and I've never been happier in my life. You go through all this bullshit, and this culmination of crap, and I know I was kind of getting down on not talking to people, and I don't know dude, like rekindling a friendship with you. And then, Joe and I have always talked. We've always texted maybe once a year or so. And I love Joe.
Mhm.
Seeing Rob again and Nick, like all of the good times that we had, man. And then Will, and they all used to stay at my parents' house.
Yeah.
Shit, when Will was an End of All, like same thing. He would like they crashed with my place. Like, um, all these funny like connections just coming full circle. It just means so much. We did the show with you guys, and then we played. Um, we had a reunion show back home.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to give a shout out because we did some vinyl releases. We did we formally released the God City record coincide uh, the FASSW reunion. So it was kind of same time we announced this stuff, and we had this hometown reunion show that we thought about inviting y'all or other people. We're like, man, does anybody even care? Because the Memphis thing has kind of been weird. I don't even live there anymore. I don't know what's going on, and
Hmm.
so we're like, we'll just do it small. And so shout out Dan Drinkard, Seasick Records out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm rocking the T. Uh, he and our buddy Drew, who did the art for all of our stuff, who's in Chicago, Drew Ryan. Shout out Drew. Dan helped us release this stuff on vinyl, and he's a independent record store in Birmingham. They sell vinyl. And he's not a record label, but he likes to help do like archival type releases.
Hmm.
And so he jumped on this with us. And so Seasick Records essentially helped us put this out on wax, the God City recording. So we called it the God City Session, which is the original Faithless.
Hmm.
It's on Spotify, Apple Music, but it's on wax as a physical copy.
Yeah. Go check it out. It came out 2023, right?
Yeah, I think it came out
Yeah.
23. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. That
November.
was the reunion
Yep.
show. Yeah.
The
November
reunion.
18th.
Yep. So it coincided with y'all's reunion, and so go check that out. Seasick, I think it's seasickbham.com, and that's that. And then he also released our Old Youth Culture on wax too, because we never had a physical release of that, and that was our culmination of like you said, like that was our. We had the break. We decided to write another record, do it ourselves.
Hmm. Yeah, how did that feel writing Old Youth Culture? Like after that long of break, was it like, okay, I'm refreshed, coming in with
Yeah,
new ideas, new
yeah.
inspiration?
We wanted we had new stuff, things that we were working on. Patrick was back in the fold. Everybody was happy, and we wanted to do it. Matt engineered it at Ardent, and in Midtown Memphis, ZZ Top's recorded there. A bunch of cool shit has happened there, and we're like,
Hell
let's
yeah.
fucking do it ourselves, and we'll do a digital release, and we are so proud of it.
Dude,
And
it's so good. I love it.
I don't know how to describe it. It's just metal and heavy and our kind of style, and um, you know,
You guys have a
I'm
unique sound, like the kind of atmospheric stuff on the guitars and shit, but then it's like crushingly heavy, but then it's kind of stoner.
it's got this
And
groove to it, like this
yes,
under
really good
like
grooves. And there's also like something that you did on the early records. The guitars kind of had like a almost like a southern stoner rock vibe at
yeah,
times. And I
yeah,
think the essence of that came back in this one, but you did it better
yeah.
than you ever did before. Like, because
Thank you.
sometimes that's easy to sound out of place
Yeah,
in like a metal record, but then in this one, I feel like everything was just smoothed over, perfectly well done. The grooves are incredible, like the mood, the vibe. It's so good, dude.
I I appreciate it because that's kind of like I don't know, like we're not very good at um, describing things, and like you kind of hit it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And we were very excited to do it, and it worked out great. And we just did a real digital release, played some shows locally. I wound up, shortly thereafter moving, and it went its way. So Dan putting this out on Seasick to coincide with that was just so wonderful and great, and just made us feel so good. And thank you, buddy.
I always joke. You ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
Remember
Yes.
Linus that would hand her
Yes.
drinks?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. That's exactly what's happening right now.
you're sitting there.
Um,
Thank
no,
you.
they know all about Paul, and they're sitting in the background just like.
Tell him I said
But
hi.
yeah, Paul says, "Hey, boys." Okay. There's one of them. But anyway, so like we do the reunion with y'all, then we go up to we do the hometown thing, and I'll keep this brief. But man, I've never like when you say like give them their flowers. Like I felt like I got my flowers at that show. Like people telling me, thank you for what we've done, and and I just booked shows back in the day, and I went to shows,
Mm.
and I will say nights like these was in that genre was probably at the time the only band that was successful to do it. I think ever.
Yeah,
And
at that
I'm
time
not
for sure.
I don't. There's a lot of great bands now that exist that are doing like really cool. There's a band called Cora that just had a release. They are like black metal Cult of Luna.
Oh no
Um,
shit. I'll have to check that out.
check them out. Yeah, Chora. And then like yeah, listen to them. They deserve more hype. They just put out a vinyl release on a smaller label. A band called Autolith, Autolith. One of our old buddies, Brian Hillhouse has been in that band for a while, and he always played other bands with us, and uh, they are fucking killer. I don't even know how to describe them. They did like stuff with this grind band called Knoll, Knoll, maybe.
Oh, that sounds
Uh,
familiar.
but the Autolith, their last record, Brian's gonna kill me because I'm not gonna remember exactly the title of the record. But dude, Memphis music is starting to come back. I feel like it's called Artificial Heaven. It came out this last year. Check it out. It's amazing. And then our buddy, like I was talking about, Seasick Records and how they put out this vinyl to coincide with other stuff. The other band that played on our show was a band called Cherry Smoke, um, and they're like another band that I can't describe. And Eli Barry, who is their drummer and vocalist, helped us print all of our merch through. We did a capsule with his clothing company called Slowdown Dry Goods, and it was this full circle like Memphis thing to put out our vinyl, put out our merch, have a show, and it was sold out. It was over max capacity.
Fuck yeah.
And I was so grateful. Our buddy Brandon Pierce helped us do the flyer through Memphis Underground. Uh,
I saw
man,
some of the videos you posted. It looked awesome.
yeah, man,
I
it
wish
was
I could have been there.
incredible. I know. And it was just so fun, and I'd love to do a FASSW like Memphis thing. Like I think it would be like surreal, and I think it would be huge.
I'd love that. We haven't
Um,
been that way yet.
you haven't, and Memphis is starving for some of that stuff. But dude, just there's so many good bands. Prest, our buddy, our old original guitar player buddy, who wrote some of the early Nights Like These stuff, is in a band called Prest. Uh, dude, there's so many good Memphis bands that exist that I can't even think about. Like, um, I don't know, man. Like, there's just so many good. I'm sorry to anybody who's listening from Memphis if I forgot your band. I'm trying to shout out everybody. So much good shit that exists. And Memphis is kind of, I feel like, coming back on the cusp of like goodness. And anybody there that's like considered us as an influence or like what's up to us, like it meant a lot because we were just kids playing music, just like you guys were in your neck of the woods, and we go up and play Grand Rapids. Oh, well, that's where it was, right? Grand Rapids with Billy Strings,
Yes.
and we do that show with you guys. And dude, those were the only three shows that we've played, and uh, I'm not surprised. Matt Qualls and Sebastian and Darren don't like to write music for nights like these. They like to do other bullshit. Shout out, shout out, Memphis noise punk band, Decoration Policy. Um, they're great. It's Matt and Sebastian's other band, but we're doing it, and you and I have talked about this before, about like through text, about what if we're gonna do anything, and I've talked to Joe about it too. And our goal. So we played the Grand Rapids show, playing with Billy Strings. Y'all see you next Tuesday. It was incredible. Then I became like a feature artist. I did the background vocals for y'all.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I wish you were at
I,
Furnace Fest for. We had
know.
Carl from Misery Signals come up.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
Sick. He's better than me, dude. He's much more he's a big dog.
That was amazing. Like, thank you so much, Carl. Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out Carl.
Crushed it. But that was such a surprise because I think Will had talked to him earlier and he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then that was like months or weeks before, and we all kind of forgot. Yeah. And we got there, and then he texted Will and was like, "Am I still doing that?" And we were like, "Fuck yeah, you're doing it!
Do it, so, dude! That's so sick,
yeah,
man.
That was really cool."
That's the beauty of like this music, man, is like you can get so many people to like hop on and do this stuff and add their own little flair to it or their sprinkle of their personality. And I loved doing that with you guys. Cause I know like we talked, I was trying to, we're talking about the mic that Matt uses and the Jeff Buckley mic, the last one that he used before he died. And, I think it was right after your dad, like kind of surrounding your dad's passing and stuff. And we kind of, had some somber conversation about that. And, man, like life is short and everything happens for a reason. Our connections, you coming back home to be with your dad for a little while, and having those moments, right? Mm-hmm. And, us all reconnecting, and it's just music, man. And everybody gets to touch it in their own weird way, and there's no claim to it. It's just, it is what it is, and it's for everybody. And
it's amazing what we do. It's just fucking noise, and how
just noise,
how important it is, and how much it affects your life. Because
it does.
The other half of the reason I moved back here was the band, and it just happened to be like, oh, my dad's getting older, he's alone, band's there. And I need to like rekindle my life, period. Like I was just a shell of a person. So that's the band getting back together brought me back to life too. It's the reason I'm doing this podcast. It's the reason I'm doing a YouTube channel and started posting on social media again. Cause I didn't post for fucking years. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely revitalizing.
Do you feel like, I like tapping into you a little bit. I feel like you and I connect a little bit on our kind of emotional status. And do you feel like you were like when you came home, the band was part of it, being closer to your dad was another part of it? I know the dad stuff was sudden, and if you don't want to talk about it, but like I feel like you felt when I talked to you, you felt like you were like you had done something. Like you were like, man, I'm glad I actually did come back because I was able to kind of reconnect and rekindle some stuff with your dad.
Yeah.
And I know
we only got to hang out like 2 times, and then he died all of a sudden. So that was just completely out of nowhere because he was fine. Yeah. But if I didn't, I wouldn't have had that. It was like 30 days after I got here.
Damn it.
I'm just like, I was just shocked. Like, what?
I know.
Because we never had the closest relationship. My parents were divorced when I was 2. Mm-hmm. And then I would, do the divorced parents thing, see him every other weekend or whatever. But sorry, we were never that close. And then we had a falling out when I was a teenager, didn't talk for years and years. And then eventually he came back around and like contacted my mom and was like, I'm getting too old to like be acting like this. I want to like talk to him again. And I was still young and mad at him. So I was like, fuck that. Yeah. And because I didn't care. I grew up with my mom. She did everything. Yeah. So I was like, fuck you. And then I got older and I was like, okay, now I'm feeling the same way. And then my mom passed in 2016. So like, I'm like, he's all I got. I have no brothers and sisters. And
I didn't know that, man. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I didn't know that part of it.
What, my mom?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. She passed suddenly too in 2016. That was when I was living in California. So I had to rush home for that. That was a whole other crazy experience, but that hurt a lot more. Cause like, she basically raised me and, yeah. All good, man. Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a crazy year. That's for sure. Yeah. Like living in my hometown, I'm 5 minutes from my mom's place where I grew up. I'm 5 minutes from practice, and it's crazy.
Well, I'm glad that I feel like a lot of this stuff happened. I think Jimmy stole my favorite word, serendipitous. It was
I
all
remember
meant
him
to.
using that.
Yeah, it was all meant to be in a weird way. Um, Whether it bringing you close to have a little bit of you know, maybe not closure, but some
Hmm.
semblance of it with your father, and
Yeah, something.
doing this band thing, and I mean, shit. I've rekindled a relationship with you that I really didn't have before, and I feel very close to you. And
Yeah,
I play the Memphis show. My kids got to come. My mother and father flew in. My sister and her husband. My brother and his wife. My
yeah.
boys came in. Have never seen us play before. I could
That's
have.
amazing.
I cried, man. I cried. I cry.
How
I'm a
could you
crier.
not? Yeah,
I'm a crier. I mean, everybody knows me. I'm emotional. I do get teary, but it's because life is so short, and I've seen a lot of death, and I've seen a lot of horrible things, and you
yeah,
just you finally like feel like I have to express this, and I can't not take it for granted, and I have to tell everyone. If I'm thinking of Paul, I gotta text him and say, "Hey man, thinking about you. Hope you're doing good." If I'm thinking about Joe, or who, if I even have your number, I'm trying to text you because I want to let you know I'm thinking about you and I care about you and how
yeah. When
you're
you
doing.
specifically texted me and said I'm making it a point to check in on my brothers, I was like, I am touched right now. I was like, and I need to do that more too.
Yeah,
Like it was
we
like
we,
a
we
really cool moment. I was like, thank you very much, because like
well,
nobody
dude,
does
like
that. You know, you talk
no
to
one.
people whenever, but
I know it can be challenging for everybody in their day to day life, and it's not an expectation of like, hey, let's talk all the time because people get busy in
yeah.
life, and we're far
And small talk is
away.
bullshit. You
It's
know,
bullshit,
when
and you
yeah,
don't want. I don't want the filler. But if you're
yeah,
thinking about me or I'm thinking about you, and this is just for me personally, no one has to do what I do. But that's what I do to everybody.
mm,
And it's the same thing that happened with, Fox and Rick and Jimmy and stuff. And I didn't know Rick or Jimmy before, but, Fox and I had a good relationship back in the day. And shout out to those boys. I love them all very much, and Drew.
yeah,
And we played those shows, and I did the little vocal backing stuff to kind of fill up the Earth and Eyes stuff. And then they were like, "Hey, we are doing this meth split, and we have these songs with the meth drums." They explained their creation, and I was like,
yeah.
"Sounds cool."
That was a really
I
cool idea.
Yeah, and I had went up to Lansing to spend some time with Fox, and just to kind of hang. I needed some bro time, and I had lost some time out with him, and he invited me up, and I said, you know what, fuck it, I got a company car, driving it, baby, and I went up
Yeah,
there and hung out, and then he let me know about this idea, and I went back up and did those vocals, and he and I, man, talk about creativity. Sat in his living room. We had watched that weekend. We went and saw Alien and the Romulus, and like wrote lyrics and stayed up late and vocal patterns and timings to how we were going to do this and the back and forth. And
oh, that's got to
I
feel so good to do.
I think so. I did those three songs, and I think so. Tomb of Woe, Pulled from Flesh, and Ascend. And I did a lot of the vocals more than I thought. I think Chris was like, "Dude, it's fine. Like, you just do it." Like, I have not done a lot, and we laughed about that. And I think a lot. It's more. I do a lot of the parts, and he does his parts so like sick. And it was a cool mashup. And Jimmy gave me the best compliment too, man. He said, "Man, you sound like I've never had somebody tell me what my voice sounds like. I just sound like a guy yelling in a microphone. Like I don't have a crazy high or a guttural low. I don't sound like Scott Vogel from Terror, and I don't sound like Phil Anselmo or Jacob Bannon. Like I just yell, and it fills the gaps. Whatever." He said I sound like Scott Kelly from Neurosis, and I was like, "Damn, dude! I
Oh
mean,
no shit.
I think
I'm
he's
not familiar
canceled.
enough with him
I
to
think he's
compare, but I
I think
fucking love
he's
your voice, dude. It's great.
thank you." And
It's manly and beefy, and it suits your music perfectly. Like,
Thank you.
yeah,
And
you are you.
thank you. So it touched me, and we did those songs and have come home, and Patrick and I have been throwing around, ideas for this Nights Like These, quote unquote finale EP thing. But you know, uh, I was talking to him because I was like, man, Paul's gonna ask what we're doing,
I am. That
and
was my
and
next question. What do you guys have planned for 2025?
so I think I'm not going to go long as Jimmy, so I'm going to call it quits here soon because I don't want to go as long as
All
him.
good.
But
My camera battery is gonna die eventually, so
it's cool. My kids are going to eventually stare me to a hole in my forehead. So, um, so the plan is we're going to do an EP, and I'm going to make everybody do it if I have to hold guns to their heads, and we're all going to do it. And I think everybody wants to. It's hard because people get busy and everybody's very, very busy with jobs and it's challenging.
mhm.
But we all take a part, nearly equal part in writing. Patrick is generally the spearheader of musical ideas because he's a wizard on this stuff.
Mhm.
So we talked about this, at length, but he is definitely a wizard in how we conceptualize our music. And then Darren adds on lead stuff. Matt beefs it up, and same with Sebastian. Sebastian has some riffs for some kind of punk type shit that we want to do. But point
Fuck
being,
yeah.
we've got an EP that we want. That's our goal. And we've got a lot of ideas and riffs and song structure kind of prepared. And our goal is this year, 2025, to knock it out. So I told them that I was going to call them all out on this. And I was like, I'm going to punk everybody out and talk all this shit. But they know I love them and I want to do this for us and keep it going, man. And we'll see what happens next. It doesn't matter, but I think you asked me before bands that like, oh, it might sound like, and I kind of brought up this Nine Inch Nails idea.
Mhm.
And I think the idea behind our Nine Inch Nails comparison is just we like Trent Reznor, and it's not so much that we want to sound like Nine Inch Nails. It's the
Mhm.
way that he conceptualizes Nine Inch Nails as an artistic expression, and he's able to conceptualize it and write it in this way that it changes over time of what
Mhm.
he wants it to be and how their group writes music. And
Right.
it's also heavy and they have a lot of weird stuff going on. And that's not necessarily what Nights Like These does because we are our own thing.
Mhm.
Um, but we get a lot of influence from how they write. And then, we
That's
dabble
so
in
interesting. I'm excited for what you guys are gonna do.
it's the conceptualization of music
Mhm.
and how you create this idea in your brain and how you want it to be as a whole. Not that I want it to sound like this type of music, but how I'm going to conceptualize it as
A
with
piece of
how we
art.
write. Yeah, a piece of
Yeah.
art. So, and we get a lot of inspiration from him and Patrick's a deadhead, and we're kind of like a metal jam band. I'm going to be honest with you, and but we shorten it into song structure.
Right. That's a good way to
So
put it.
I know else, but yeah, we steal from Cult of Luna and this wall of sound of heavy with melody. We listen to freaking the Grateful Dead, and we listen to Dorothy Ashby, and like jazz music, and Bill Evans and all this stuff. Or it doesn't matter,
Mhm.
jazz, industrial metal, fucking
Yeah.
hardcore. It's just how you conceptualize what you want it to sound like and put it out. So that's our plan. And all you know I am just glad to be able to talk about it with you and write this music with my friends. Hopefully, see you guys play again soon. See the See You Next Tuesday guys play. And my ultimate goal is to expose my kids to some more of this cool shit. Let them like what they like, experience it in their own way,
Mhm.
and also not take for granted these moments that I pushed away for a long time
Right.
because I obviously missed it and needed it. And I am so very grateful to have, I'll leave it here. I'm so very grateful to have rekindled it with you, my friend, and all of your band members and these guys that I've looked up to for so long, and all of our friends' bands and all of these guys that have, for me, Billy, Billy Bottom is a name that stands out. It's funny, it's goofy. Who is this guy? I've been called Billy Cheeks. I'm William Bottom. I'm all these things. But at my core, man, I'm a guy who grew up listening to hardcore music and metal in the early 2000s and looked up to all of you guys and wanted to be like you. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to continue to make memories with you all and share my story on your podcast. That is also an awesome thing that you're doing, and continue a friendship, brother. So thank you very much for having me on. I love you. You're going to keep crushing it and doing awesome things, and I'm very grateful for you, and I'm glad you're doing so well, man. Proud of you.
Well, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been great to, this is the longest we've ever sat and talked, and especially just the two of us. So to get to know you more and look forward to this year with creating some more of those moments. I can't wait to hear your guys' new shit, and hopefully we get to come down and play a release show with you when you do it.
Dude, I'm all about it. We're going to light that fire under some asses and some of these dudes. Sebastian, Darren, Matt, fuck you. Write some music.
Fuck you. Let's fucking go.
Just kidding. I love you guys. I love you all. I love you guys.
Love you, boys. I can't wait to see you again. I can't wait to hear what you're going to do. I know you're going to kill
Hell
it.
Yeah.
So,
hell yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again sometime, especially when you got the new shit coming out.
Yes, sir. Who's next? Who's coming on next? Who's your next confirmed guest?
Next will be Mr. Rob Heilman from a Second Story Window.
Oh my God, I love Rob. He will beat me up with his jujitsu. I'm actually very scared of him. He's like genuinely Rob.
He'll kill you.
He's a beast, dude, and I'm just like, God, fucking killer.
I'm excited to have him on, my fellow brother and Axeman in the band.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That'll be cool, especially since we have the new song out. We can chat about that. But so you don't have any socials, just the band one, right?
Just the band one, and I am not a social guy on media, and if you care, At Nights Like These band, that's where anything related to us will exist. And as far as I
give
go,
him a follow.
Yeah, as far as I go, you just have to know me personally. But anywho, thanks, buddy.
Yep, you're welcome, and thank you very much. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Absolutely.
So, to everyone listening, thank you very much. Again, a reminder, if you're enjoying the show, please leave a rating and follow me on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.
Cheers. Riff Taco, baby.
Cheers.